Hello and welcome back to Coffee Kurosawa, the friendly film crit podcast. I am your friendly film fanatic, Ben Filipkowski.
And I am Farrah Sarpkaya, a person who loves film, but like in a super chill. I feel like I just watched a 2.5-hour art installation at a weird off-Broadway theater that doubles as a queer art gallery and has amateur spoken word poetry slams on Thursday at 3 o'clock every single day kind of way.
I don't know how to follow that. Today we're talking about Mulholland Drive, written and directed by the late, great David Lynch. This movie stars Naomi Watts, Laura Herring, and Justin Theroux. It was released in 2001, and in the 24 years since, has slowly earned a reputation as one of Lynch's finest works. Heads up that this movie is rated R and deals with some pretty heavy topics, so as always, viewers' discretion is advised. Where to start with this one? Because I wrote out like a full plot summary, and it's just way too long. There's too much in there because, of course, there is. So I think an exact plot summary would be a bit tedious, and there's no way it can really match up to what's on screen. So to kind of keep it short and simple, it starts with a young woman losing her memory after a car accident on, where else, Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles. She seeks shelter in LA, encountering and staying with aspiring actress Betty, and starts calling herself Rita. But who is Rita? What is she running from? She and Betty set out to figure it all out. And along the way, we also encounter everything from an inept hitman to a beleaguered film director, some sinister Hollywood figures, some nightmarish figures hiding out behind a diner, and an ever-deepening mystery. And then Betty wakes up. Except she's not Betty. She's Diane. And Rita is now Camilla, her ex-lover. The story gets weirder, darker, and everything we've seen up to this point is suddenly recontextualized in this new reality. And as most film noir stories do, it ends in tragedy, with a single word spoken in Spanish: silencio. So this is the very short version of that movie's plot. And I truly love this movie, and I'm sure we can get into that in excruciating detail in a little bit. But Farrah, what'd you think?
I think at the end of the film, I sent you a message that was just the gif of the little girl looking confused at the camera. But, like, not in a bad way, you know? Because, like, I liked it the same way I really like House of Leaves, in that every time I read that book or, you know, watch this movie, similar with Citizen Kane, right? I would find more things. I'd start to connect more of the strings on the murder board, if you will. And I think it really exemplifies a theme that we've talked about a little bit of film as art in the most literal, like, interpretive sense of the word. Like abstract art, for example, of just like, why is that banana pinned to the wall, and why is that art? And like this, it feels weird and disjointed and strange in a lot of ways, but like intentionally so. And like, as much as my movies are generally like vibes choices, this feels like a vibes movie. This is just a movie about vibes, and like, not like there's story in there, but like it doesn't feel like it matters as much as the actual just atmosphere and feeling that it's bringing in my soul. So like that, I don't know. I just have to end it with it. I don't know. It was weird and it was good, and I think I enjoyed it, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't trust it though.
Yeah. And this was, I think we were talking, this is the first David Lynch film you've seen, I believe.
I mean, it is the first David Lynch film I have intentionally watched knowing that it is a David Lynch film.
Gotcha.
So, like, it is very probable that I have seen other David Lynch projects. Like, you know, I didn't look at his filmography, but, like, I've seen some Twin Peaks. I haven't watched the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, as is my, you know, habit, I watch things and I don't look at the director. I just like it or not. So, maybe. I don't know.
So, okay. This is probably one of the most analyzed movies we've explored on this podcast. I mean, like Citizen Kane's probably up there, but I think like they're two different flavors of criticism and analysis in many ways. And, I think when you look back at the contemporaneous reviews when this came out, it was pretty divisive then. I'm going to put the question to you, though. What do you think this movie's about?
I mean, it's a mystery. It's a love story. It's a story of a woman's descent through guilt into madness, very like Lady Macbeth-esque. And at the same time, like, because we jump around to a bunch of different stuff, it doesn't entirely feel like that's what it's about, quote unquote. Like the plot feels secondary importance to the lived experiences being shown to us on the screen. You know what I mean? And the experience of watching it, which is really cool and a lot of fun. And I'll point to one very small detail I noticed where the Betty and Rita, who names herself after Rita Hayworth, I believe, because she sees her in a poster. But throughout their hanging out, it feels very domestic in a lot of ways. But the weird little detail I noticed was that their nails kept changing, by which I mean, like, over time you're going to get a new manicure, right? If you're a woman in Hollywood, I can only assume. I don't know the standards. I obviously don't live there, but like any woman is going to change her nail. Sorry, I should rephrase that. Any person who likes painting their nails doesn't just keep their nails static, right? You change color, you change style, you change length, blah, 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 right? But you don't do it multiple times a day. And this movie, while they're like hanging out together, their nails change constantly from different styles of nail, different colors, different whatever. And when you get to the second half, where it's revealed that it's a dream, it makes so much more sense. And that attention to detail and that experience of noticing things are off or wrong or weird, that is what I think the movie is about. It's the experience of the mystery and the discomfort and the like not quite wrong but not quite rightness of everything that's going on.
Yeah. Like the slow realization that, oh, this is all just a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And, obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, I mean, I won't even say it's spoilers. Like, it's kind of, the feature of it is that it is widely accepted that the first 2/3 of the movie are an extended dream sequence, and the final third is the kind of like stark reality of the situation. So Betty doesn't exist. Betty's Diane. Maybe. We don't know.
Maybe.
Like, what's the Barack Obama thing where it's like, maybe. I don't know. That's classified. Is, I think, a good way
and does it matter?
Yeah.
Because, like, the thing with dreams, right? And there's a TTRPG I run that I absolutely adore running that deals very heavily in dreams. And one of the premises is that everybody that shows up in your dream exists in real life, because our brains can't really like create new people in the way that you would think that it just like squishes together pieces of a face. No, you've probably seen that person as a background in a TV show, out running your groceries. It's the cashier that you interact with, whatever. You might not remember, but those people exist. So maybe, the other people, like at one point Betty / Camilla, or Betty / Rita, both in the dream and in reality, interact with the same waitress. But in the dream, the waitress's name is Diane. In the reality, I think the waitress' name is Betty, right? Yeah. So she's just interposed herself and her life here, or like the names here, and little things like that where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you just took all of the pieces of the waking world and threw them in here and shook them up in a martini shaker, and ta-da.
Yeah, it's very much that like the Wizard of Oz, and you were there, and
Yeah.
you were there, and and Lynch was allegedly a huge Wizard of Oz fan. So it's not surprising that that would be
Yeah.
like a trope that he would employ in here, and yeah, like the biggest and probably most widely accepted interpretation of the movie is that it is this extended dream. You get the reality afterwards. But then there's also this idea of like, I think I'm not sure where I'm getting this quote from, but that it's also a poisonous Valentine to Hollywood. So it's like equal parts this love letter, but also like but also you kind of suck. And I think we kind of see that with like the way that there's like a dark underbelly or a dark side to a lot of these scenes. And in the dream, what I'll refer to as like the more dream sequence parts of the movie, it's amplified to such a point where it's like almost ridiculous. Like the antagonists and villains are cartoonish. Like there's a man in a dark room who summons people to him, and they have to interpret his cryptic commands, and then they go out and tell the director, you must hire this actress, no one else, otherwise we will make your life a living hell. And then there's the cowboy who appears in that flash of light to reinforce this further. There's the nightmarish figure hiding out behind Winky's, the diner. They're the creepy old folks. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much going on,
awful.
and it's so exaggeratedly sinister, especially in hindsight. And I think when like you're watching it the first time, you're like, this is just David Lynch weirdness. And I mean, it is, but like compared to the latter section of the movie, it's like that kind of like evilness is just more like it's just your run of the mill corruption and grift. Like, so yeah, I find that really stands out to me.
I think on the shoulders of that too comes the trustworthiness of the narrator at all, right? Like we talked about this with Citizen Kane and with Coraline both, that if a film or a piece of media of any kind or a person tells you who they are, you believe them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie spends 2/3 of a movie telling me don't trust me because I lied to you. Haha. And so the second half, as we were going through the quote unquote realness of the stark reality, like you said, of what happens, did it though? Because I don't trust Diane to be a reliable narrator at all. Like, yeah, maybe Camilla broke her heart, or maybe not. Maybe Camilla they were just friends. Maybe they were truly in love and Camilla broke it off for financial gain. Maybe she just stopped being interested and, fell in love with someone else. Like, but even just the cartoonishness of the moment in the latter part of the film where she goes to the hilltop house where Adam and Camilla are, I think, announcing their engagement, right? I think that's they never actually say the word engaged because they end up laughing and kissing hysterically. That moment made me think, I still don't trust Diane's recounting of what has happened. Because, like, are they that insufferable?
Yeah. And then, the dream Camilla shows up and kisses real Camilla.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then, so they share this kiss, and then they both look at Diane, who's like seething with rage. So the reliability of Diane's experience is certainly under tight scrutiny. And I think like kind of building on that, like the kind of like more baseline corruption, but also just like the kind of the stark reality of it. Like there are, I have two quotes here, and David Lynch lived just near Mulholland Drive. Was quoted as saying, "At night you ride on top of the world. In the daytime you ride on the top of the world too. But it's mysterious and there's a hair of fear because it goes into remote areas. You feel the history of Hollywood in that road."
Hmm.
Naomi Watts has also talked about how she has memories of driving on Mulholland, sobbing, because she was has these memories of like being in tears, struggling to get her career going. This movie was her big breakthrough. She had some smaller notable roles, but like she's on the record as saying like, "Oh my God, it's so hard. Like it's so tough if you're trying to make it and break through." And like you're surrounded by like the promise of like you can make it, you can be a star,
Hmm.
and the harsh reality is a lot of people will just not give you the time of day, which is admittedly not super sinister, but like you know it's the side of Hollywood people do not necessarily always talk about.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, zooming out a bit here with my own experience of like, there's something about making animation, or wanting to, I
Yeah,
should be clear. I haven't been paid to act in anything that is like a thing that I would be kind of excited to talk about, right?
yeah,
I've done some stuff for work and that's about it, right? And because I'm still working on breaking into
yeah,
the industry. But there's something about particularly making films, whether that's like live acting, whether that's voiceover, whatever, where it's an art form you want to be part of, but you can't really do it alone,
hmm,
right? Like, I want to provide the voice for someone else's animation. I want to provide the voice for someone else's video game character. I'm not going to build an entire video game. I am not the creative Stardew Valley, right?
hmm,
He made a game so people would listen to his music. I'm not going to write and animate a movie just to act in it.
yeah,
Maybe. I mean, give me a couple of years and see how well I do, and maybe I will. But like the idea that we are mixing all of these wonderful creatives who just want to make films because it's fun and it's exciting and all this stuff
yeah,
with the money,
yeah,
right? The problem of money
yeah,
um comes out in this movie quite a bit.
yeah. And I mean, like, it's interesting that you bring that up. This began its life as a pitch for a series, kind of in the vein
Hmm.
of Twin Peaks. So the kind of like core of this movie was actually shot for an extended pilot, and then the network passes on it. But then I think it's Studio Canal swoops in, and they're like, "No, no, no, David Lynch, keep going." So
Yeah.
he
Don't
fleshes it
stop.
out into this full length movie, which is why you get random moments like iconic character actor Robert Forster is one of the detectives in the intro and never shows up again. He gets referenced later on, but he never shows up again. Um, and it's part of why you have like so many plot threads that very abruptly get recontextualized. Like, and I think there's like a really cool effect with that. How a lot of these mysteries are built up and then immediately turned on their head right when you're like, "Ooh, well, what's the big reveal going to be?" And there is no real. I mean, there is a big reveal. It's just not the one you're expecting at all, and not in the way you're expecting it. And so,
Hmm.
there's probably a world where, like, if this did get into a TV show, you know, how do you stretch this out for a few seasons and not fall
Yeah.
into the same fate that Twin Peaks fell into, where they had these driving mysteries, and then the studio says, you just have to solve it and then make more of the show. And they're like, but if we don't have the driving mystery, why are people going to watch?
Yeah.
Like, um,
Hmm. Well,
so
it's the
yeah,
supernatural problem,
yeah,
right? It's the
yeah,
monster of the week, but eventually that's not enough. You need a big mystery, and then you solve the big mystery, but now you need a bigger mystery because they're stronger now. They've proven they can do
yeah,
this thing, and now you have to go bigger. And then it's like, okay, well, now we're fighting God,
yeah,
and I don't know where to go from here. So,
yeah. Which I think like what I really enjoy about this and what I really enjoy about Twin Peaks as well is that there's this kind of like the fascination with the mystery and pursuing that as like living in mystery, living in ambiguity. being the point in many regards, while also being about dreams and hopes and nightmares, and maybe Hollywood is not actually all that great, even though sometimes it is. Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, you sent me a GIF while I was like text messaging you.
Yeah.
Like focus on the donut, not the hole, or something.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is a whole musical performance where there is no performance because it's all recorded.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I got this feels like an off Broadway art installation weirdness kick, right? Because it was like the singer as herself has a beautiful, incredible voice. She does an absolutely stunning performance, and then she passes out.
Oh, she passes out, but the performance keeps going.
But yes,
because
it's all on record.
Yeah, this is a recording. There is no band,
right.
No high banda.
Yes. And so then I'm like, okay, is that the dream metaphor, I guess? Because we're not living this. It's just a dream. It's just memories all pieced together backwards, forwards, and upside down. I'm just like, ugh. And this is what I mean by, like, I love it in the same way I love House of Leaves. Because I could just be like, pick up this one little piece of it and be like, why? What is this?
Yeah.
Why is this? Why was this the choice?
Yeah. 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 I think also, like, a lot of this is a funny movie, but all that humor vanishes when it's like reality, you know?
Yeah.
And, in particular, a wild Billy Ray Cyrus appearing as the pool boy, no less, remains one of the funniest moments in this entire film.
It was very weird.
Yeah. He's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you... I think I messaged you this at some point. I was just like, have you noticed the red and the blue? What's up with that? Did you have any thoughts on that? Because it was a pervasive theme, and I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. I have really general thoughts on it. I think like the blue often winds up being symbolic of like dream or otherworldliness, or representative of, I guess symbolic and representative do mean the same thing really, but like indicative of this is dreamlike, this is surreal. And the red, I think, well, I mean, like there are those clues David Lynch included in the DVD release as like a printout in the DVD release, and he specifically calls out like the lampshade, I believe, and that appears a few times, and it's kind of, to me, it seems to like hint at some more sinister stuff. I don't know. I think it's like very like color coding, as I'm looking at it. Like the red is probably dark and evil or reality, and the blue is otherworldly, surreal stuff.
I mean, there's like a number of moments where red and blue appeared next to each other, which stood out to me a lot. I have no specific thoughts on what or why or wherefore, but like it just stood out, and I was like, huh.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like surrealism as like an artistic movement and idea, it's rooted in this notion of simultaneously presenting both like the supernatural and the real, which is like that's where we get the word from. So it is meant to be like these two things existing at once. So it could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
There's a large part of me that watching a David Lynch movie will dive in deep on so many things, and another part that I'm just sitting back and going, like, whoa, what's up with that, man? That's just weird. What's up with that? Isn't that weird? And there are parts of this movie I still don't know what the deal is with the man behind the Winkies. I don't know what's up with that, other than like that weird jump scare seems to be like a dreams are real right now, but that he shows up like 2 more times, and I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah. I mean, the more I kind of think about it, I think about my own like night terrors experience where sometimes your brain does weird stuff and it misfires and you're just suddenly in terror for no reason whatsoever, and it feels so real, and then suddenly you're awake and it doesn't quite feel like reality is the one that's real for a moment until you calibrate.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know, maybe, but also the fact that we go on this detour with that guy, the actor who I know from so many things and whose name I obviously do not know because I'm, as we've established, awful with names. But the one who wanted to go to the Winkies because he wanted to see the man behind the Winkies. Just the most random little, like, side quest.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and
why?
it's just
why?
I don't think he even gets a name. The characters, like those two characters, do not get names in the movie, as far as I know. And he's like, I had this nightmare, and I just wanted to come here to let myself know it's just a nightmare. And his friend's like, well, let's just go and like double check. And then the sound is building up, and you're like, this could be bad, isn't it? And then, like, does he pass out or does he die? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a mystery. And that's, I mean, that kind of takes us to our second kind of talking point of, like, there's no answer. Well, there are a few answers in this movie.
Yeah.
As noted, I don't trust Diane's account as far as I could throw it. And so, even less answers, perhaps. So, does it matter that there's no, like, when we talked about North by Northwest, the plot was all over the place. The plot was absolute chaos, right? But that didn't really matter because we didn't care so much, because it was fun and it was a romp and we were going all over and it was exciting. For this one, I don't know. I feel like the lack of answers is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right? Like
100%. I mean, like, at least to some extent. Yeah, like, it is very much about, like, living in the mystery. And I think I mentioned it earlier, though, that, like, in Twin Peaks, that's almost the point. The point is that, like, you're not going to get a definitive answer. And, I mean, there's so many... I was sharing a bunch of, like, David Lynch quotes with you before we hit record about how he's just, like, what the iconic one where he's speaking to this interviewer and he says, believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film. And the interviewer says, oh, elaborate on that if you would. David Lynch says, no, I won't. Just shuts it down. So, like, it's just, yeah, like, the sometimes the point is just, there's not going to be a concrete answer given to you by a creator, by a work of art. The point is your interpretation, or the point is for you to just think and explore those ideas.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does, like, an incredible job of really inviting that. And I have a quote from Roger Ebert here from his review back in, like, 2001. Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars, and he wrote, David Lynch has been working toward Mulholland Drive all of his career. And now that he's arrived there, I forgive him for Wild at Heart and even Lost Highway. At last, his experiment doesn't shatter the test tubes. The movie is a surrealist dreamscape in the form of a Hollywood film noir, and the less it makes sense, the more we can't stop watching it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hits the nail on the head. On the flip side, film theorist Ray Carney was more critical and said, you wouldn't need all the emotional backflips and narrative trapdoors if you had anything to say. You wouldn't need doppelgangers and shadow figures if your characters had souls. Which is...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like... yeah,
that's the beauty of art, though.
Yeah.
Like, art is divisive. Like, a lot of my artwork is, I do some, like, portraiture and whatever, but I also do a lot of abstract because it's fun and it makes me feel good. And, like, I know there's a huge conversation around, you know, what abstract art. Why? What? And like things like there's a Jackson Pollock at MoMA. And if I stood in front of it once, and I remember this. I think I stood in front of that painting. It was like 6x8. It was massive, and it just made me feel happy. It's just splatter painting. If you've never seen Jackson Pollock's work, it's just splatter paintings. And I say just in big quotations. And there is no reason why that should have made me feel anything. Because if you're just looking at art as like paint on a thing that shows you something, explicitly shows you something, there's no reason that a bunch of splatters on a big old canvas should make me feel anything. You know, I have pictures of my cats. Those make me feel things. I have pictures of my husband and I. Like, those make more sense. You know, photos and art of war even make more sense. Splatters on a painting, why? But it does. And so you get an art piece like this film, that you're like, it doesn't and shouldn't make sense maybe, but also it does, and its purpose is the feeling, not so much it's the journey, not the destination, maybe.
Yeah.
It's taking a road trip for the fun of the road trip, not for the fun of getting somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like, I think we live in an age where things like explainer videos are like every piece of media that comes out. Like, if I wanted to look up like the final scene of Mulholland Drive on YouTube, like I'll look at Mulholland Drive ending, and all the top hits are going to be like Mulholland Drive ending explained. And like, this is not it's not an exaggeration to say this. Like, there's a cottage industry of people trying to break down art into constituent parts to make it understandable. And I think there's nothing inherently wrong with that. And I mean, like, this podcast is, you know, probably within that realm. Like, we're here talking about movies and trying to explain why we like them and why they're interesting. But it's really nice to like to be reminded of there are unknowns in the world and in existence, and sometimes art can reflect that. And we will not get an easy answer. We might not get an answer at all, but like to have something kind of butt up against that, that's always interesting. Because I mean, like, I think, you know, it's not really a huge stretch to say that this movie is a commentary on some of the corruption in the Hollywood system, as we've talked about. It's a commentary on, you know, self-serving memory and dreams and things like that. But it's also just about living in mystery and ambiguity. And that's something I keep coming back to with this, and something I really love about it, and a lot of Lynch's other works.
Yeah, I mean, we get things like Raymond Chandler's film noir books, right? Film noir books, oh my goodness. Noir mystery books. Yeah. We get things like, you know, The Big Sleep, or the Jade Falcon. Anyway.
Maltese?
And Maltese Falcon, thank you, yeah. I knew it was something. And a lot of the time, you know, one of the modern complaints of those kind of noir books, and also films, is that they can be very meandering, right? It's a fairly straightforward mystery, but the detective has to go this place and that place. The plot can be a little slow. There's a lot of sitting in cars looking at an empty apartment, you know, the boring stuff. But that's kind of the point, because it'd be boring if we just got to the end and it was, oh, here's the answer on a slip of paper that I found.
Yeah.
The joy is in the discovering part, not in the actual like end. And yeah, this does that. This movie does that really well.
Yeah, it's also kind of like that idea of like this notion that if you just analyze something enough or the right way, you'll find the right interpretation. And this
Yes.
really kind of pushes back on that. Yeah, I don't know. There's just like there's a lot of cool stuff here. It is certainly a bit about mystery for the sake of mystery, and pursuing that unknown is fascinating in and of itself. Um, yeah, it's fun to live in the ambiguity, and kind of like on that note, the fact that like Lynch was just so deliberately cagey about meaning in his films. Like he really kind of put that on the audience to figure out for themselves. But it kind of got me thinking about like Inception, the Christopher Nolan movie, which like great action movie. I really enjoy that movie. And it ends on that amazing shot of the spinning top
Yeah.
just wobbling. And that is of course like the top is set up in that movie as like an indicator of reality versus dream. So if it falls over, normally that's reality. But if it keeps spinning, they're still in the dream world.
Mm-hmm.
And like the movie cuts to black. Like the Leonardo DiCaprio's character has reunited with his family. He's like succeeded in the mission, and he's like, "Oh, but I got to check." And he spins the top, and it's spinning. And he looks up at his kids, and he leaves before he can see what happens.
Yep.
And we see the top wobble, and then it cuts to black. So it's ambiguous. Like, does it fall? Does it keep on spinning?
Yeah.
And I remember, and this like this thing kind of like cycles back up every so often when people are going through the filmography of a director. But a lot of people have talked about like there were a lot of headlines about how like Michael Caine was like, no, Chris Nolan told me it falls over. It's a happy ending. And I remember reading those headlines and be like, that is the most cowardly move ever. Like let it be ambiguous. It's more powerful if it is ambiguous. It's so much more powerful if it's ambiguous. But I was actually delighted to learn that before I decided to come out bashing Chris Nolan, I looked up what he actually said. The Nolan's actual statement on the record was that it doesn't matter if it falls over or not, because like he has. The point is that he is with his kids, whether they are the dream kids or the real kids is secondary. Like it is a happy ending for the character in that moment, but maybe not for the audience.
Right.
And that is still like there you go. Okay, cool, perfect. Let that ambiguity live, thrive, survive.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Shutter Island, right?
Yeah.
Where same Leonardo DiCaprio tips his hand a little bit to Mark Ruffalo's character, who is his psychiatrist at this institution, of like, does he actually know what's real and he's choosing to get a lobotomy, or I think it's lobotomy?
Yeah.
And stop the pain, or is he still under the delusion and thus still like those little moments of like just enough information to be like, doubt. I hit the doubt button. Are really good and like satisfying in a different way to knowing the real answer. And that's I love that. Yeah.
And it's like for folks listening at home, this is the second episode we've recorded today, and so this is my second reference today to Blade Runner. But in Blade Runner, like one of the driving questions over the years was, is Harrison Ford's character also a replicant? Like, is he one of the things that he is hunting? And over the years, I think Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford have had conflicting opinions, and Ridley Scott is very definitive on giving a concrete answer. I think Harrison Ford has been a little cagier. It's like, no, like don't let that, like if that is a question people have, don't answer it. Like don't answer it, let it be. But then they did the sequel, which kind of, suggests that there was in fact a correct answer all along, which is fine. But yeah, I don't know, like these things that like living with the dream of it and like thinking about it, that's half the fun, I think.
Yeah.
Just so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, also it begs the question: how much does it matter if it's a dream or real life? If it's a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to get extra meta here, and I think that is warranted when David Lynch is concerned. The fact that we are getting a story told by who is quote unquote really Diane, but is actually really Naomi Campbell or whatever, right?
Naomi Watts.
Watts, thank you. See, names out one ear, out the other. Naomi Watts is really, whether she's awake or asleep, she's still an actress playing a role.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It's still a movie that we are watching. So, like, how much does it actually matter? If we literally watched the entire movie from start to finish without leaving the dream realm, but it's still a dream, do we know? How do we, like, do we then see, like, the nail polish is changing? We see, like, weird little snippets that we're like, strange.
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting, like, examining the art for the art's sake beyond just the confines of the film. Like with Citizen Kane, it's a narrative within a newsreel, not necessarily his take on the story.
Yeah.
And then we get this, so.
Yeah. I mean, like, also, like, if it is all just a dream sequence, yeah, like, it doesn't matter to us as an audience. We are still experiencing the same story.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there, like, people obviously will have strong feelings about the term, like, oh, it was all just a dream, and I think this kind of does that, but it does it in a meaningful way. Like, we're getting it's suddenly putting a new lens on the things we've seen, and it's using all these elements it's developed to create a different sort of meaning and a different sort of understanding of what we've been experiencing. And yeah, I mean, I think obviously there are so many examples from pop culture and the creative arts of, like, people using it was all just a dream in, like, the most cop-out way possible. I think Dallas did it pretty notably. Like, there's a character who died, and then someone, like, wakes up, and the character's, like, in the shower perfectly fine, and it's like, what are you talking about? I've been alive for the past 2 seasons. There's also some other, is it like Saint Elsewhere? There's some movie where it's, like, revealed that the entire run of the series is basically, like, a kid's imagination or dream, which was, like, everyone's like, come on, what a cop-out. Hilariously, there's a scene, the first season of Twin Peaks is exceptional. The second season starts strong and then has, like, a bunch of filler because David Lynch left the show, as did the other creator of the show, and they just didn't know what to do. But in the first season of Twin Peaks, there's a moment where Kyle MacLachlan's character, Agent Dale Cooper, end of one episode, picks up a phone and he's talking to the sheriff of Twin Peaks, and he says, I know who killed Laura Palmer, which is, like, the driving question of the series. Mm-hmm. Next episode, Coop, you said you know who you said you figured out who killed Laura Palmer in a dream. Who was it? And it is played completely straight. And he said something to the fact of, like, I forgot.
Yep.
Or, like, it was a dream. Like, it was a dream, and I can't rely on it. And it was just like, it's it would be a cop out if it wasn't so, like, self-awaredly straight-faced and such a, like, we're going to keep going with this mystery, if that makes sense. Like, it's so goofy, but wonderful. And I think that's, like, kind of one of the prevailing things I love about David Lynch's work is that there is, as much as he does do these, like, the dark underside of things, he also, I think, it was generally an optimist about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Like, he did generally see, like, the good in the world. And that's particularly apparent in Twin Peaks. But this is not a Twin Peaks episode. This is a Mulholland Drive episode.
Yes. I mean, the kind of on that same dream logic, and wherein dreams are real.
Yeah.
When you're in them, right? I recently went through a couple of It Was All a Dream episodes in a D&D campaign. And we knew it was a dream. The players knew it was a dream. But the characters maybe knew it was a dream. And so in true fashion, our GM did not give us any rules or like any limitations, but as players playing a game in a space where we knew it was a dream, but the characters thought it was real, having to navigate the line between what would my character know versus what would I know versus what is expected of me. And as we look at media like this, where as humans we dream, it's a thing, we put so many limitations on ourselves in the dream realm because we assume we know the rules. Which I think there's an additional layer of conversation around, well, if dreams feel real and reality feels real, and in dreams we hold ourselves back because we assume we know the rules and we just do what we're supposed to do or whatever, why do we not just do the same thing in reality? Like, are we holding ourselves back? And I think there's a massive rabbit hole that you could fall down extrapolating dream logic and quote-unquote reality in this film. Because again, I don't think Diane's reality at the end is real. It might just be an Inception problem where she's now second level down or up from that the more wild dream that she starts with. I don't know. But like this part of the best part of this movie for me, and which goes back to the actual question of like, does it matter? I think no, right? I think that's the answer that we've kind of danced around, right? It doesn't matter that there are no concrete answers. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
That's the fun of it. And ultimately, to watch this film is to experience a mystery and experience questions without feeling dissatisfaction at a lack of answer in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because we always want answers.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100%. You want to pull on, like, I'm the person who loves movie trivia. I like to know things, you know? So it is a bit of a reorienting of myself to constantly, not constantly, but to go into works like this and be like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get all the answers. There might not be a ton of answers. And that's cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get us out of the very high-minded area of discussion, how good is Naomi Watts in this?
Oh my god, so good.
Like, because she plays that kind of, as like Betty is almost bad acting, you know? Like we first meet Betty and it's very like, oh golly shucks, gee, and it's like very almost self-aware of that. And then she has a few more moments where like she's a bit more grounded, and then she goes to the audition.
Oh my god.
That is capital A acting.
Yes.
It's like transformative and incredible, and like takes charge of a scene where like I think Woody is the older male actor that she's reading with, and that guy's a creep.
Oh,
the guy's
such
like
a creep.
written to be a creep in the fiction, and is explicitly like he is clearly enjoying these auditions because he gets to mac on some pretty girls, and then she just completely steals the scene. And then has to go back to being like, oh gosh, shucks.
Yeah.
Like immediately after, and it's jarring, but so effective, so well done. And like this is, and I think for that scene alone, that this is largely why Naomi Watts is the star she is now, is because of starring in this movie, and incredible.
Yeah.
And Diane is such a different character to Betty as well. Like it's just
Well, it goes back to how we perceive ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if in her dream self she is oh gosh, oh golly gee, you know, I'm just from Canada.
From Deep River, Ontario.
Deep River, Ontario, you know. It's just a heck of a town, eh? You can just put your bags on the ground and nobody's going to walk away with them. And you're just like, oh, honey, no. The world's going to eat you alive. But like, and then she does that switch and it's just like, oh.
She knows something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something is hinky.
Yeah.
And then when we wake up, she is again, or quote unquote wake up. I don't trust it. We wake up and then it's like, oh, are you okay? She's not okay. But like she plays that discordant offness just so well.
Yeah. I think everyone does just such a bang up job at that too. Like Laura Herring plays Rita and Camilla and goes from being that very like helpless ingenue to a more like almost femme fatale in a sense really well. Yes. And Justin Theroux, that guy's I think having a bit of a moment now. He's been in a bunch of interesting stuff in the last few years here, but he's kind of playing a bit of a riff on David Lynch. And I don't think it's deliberate on Lynch's part, but there are moments where he says a few lines and it's like, oh, you're doing a David Lynch impression. He's doing the voice, and it's very funny. But then like the flip happens and he goes from being like very put upon, mostly upstanding director, maybe with some anger issues, to being much sleazier. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're gross now. I don't like you. I was rooting for you and now you suck. Oh.
Yeah. I think you nailed it earlier when you called him a prima donna. What we think of in the kind of cliche, it's my show and it's my set and I'm the star and all of you are just acting to fulfill my vision. And that's what we get afterwards.
Unfiltered afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas on the front half, it's like presented as a good thing. It's like, I have to have artistic integrity in my films, not whatever this nonsense Italian mobsters want me to bring this random girl in for no reason. It's like,
I love the Castiglione brothers. They're just there for the one scene.
Yeah.
Dan, character actor Dan Hedaya as one of them, who gets the "It's not your picture anymore," that iconic line.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
The other brother who spits up the awful espresso is actually played by the composer for the film, Angelo Badalamenti, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But oh god, his music incredible. I think he did almost every David Lynch film and all of Twin Peaks. What a talent. Just like what a wonderful random bit of cameo fun.
That was such a delightful, like, it was so unnecessary, but so necessary in the absurdity of this thing, of it's just like, do you want anything? Espresso. Oh, we got the best espresso from the best,
I have it on very good authority. This is one of the world's best espressos.
Yeah. And he specifically asks for a napkin because he knows he's going to spit it out. Yeah. It's going to be bad. Or maybe it's not bad and he's just a jerk.
It's just a power move. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
And it's just, and he's so soft espresso.
Of course.
Really articulates it. And what a ridiculous. And then, and the fact, and again, like the ridiculousness of it all. Coming back to Gene the pool cleaner, played by Billy Ray Cyrus. Full mullet.
Yes. Of course.
Adam, the director, goes home, finds his wife in bed with the pool guy. And the pool guy gets the line of, it's like, it'd be better if you just forgot about this, with like a gentle drawl. Yes. Adam does not take this well. His wife, soon to be ex-wife, we can I think safely bet, is shouting at him, and then Gene says like, well, go easy on him, he's probably really upset right now.
I mean, you gotta respect a man with empathy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't
It's like,
It's
yeah,
yeah.
I just slept with your wife, but I feel for you, brother. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
what an angle to take. Such
I
a
yeah.
yeah, such a random moment. It's so funny.
Yes. One other thing too that I think this film does really well, and I don't know if I can connect it tightly to what we've defined as mise en scène, but you can tell me. Things like the blue key, which in the dream realm is this weird like triangular situation that opens up a little blue box, which I presume is memory or something. I don't know, metaphors,
Yeah,
hand waving metaphors. But in the quote unquote real life, it is the assassin's uh, note
yeah,
to Diane that the job is done, your ex is dead. And the way we translate simple symbols through dream and through art
hmm
is something that's very cool to me, and they play with it really interestingly in this, which is why there has to be a reason that that weird person behind the Winky's diner is a metaphor for something, but I don't know what it is.
yeah.
But
Like,
playing spot the metaphor through this thing is like it's fun.
yeah, there's something in there about like the box being like a Pandora's box, and when the box is
Mhm.
opened, the truth or like darkness comes out.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
then also the man behind the Winkies is the caretaker of this box,
Yes.
but also
Uh-huh.
this figure who may or may not have killed through their presence the guy who had the nightmare.
Mhm.
But then when is at the very end, Diane shoots herself after being tormented by maybe hallucinations of the old folks
Yep.
that Betty was traveling with at the very beginning of the movie.
Mhm.
And then like there's that fade, and you see the face of the man behind the Winkies once more, as like the smoke from the gun is there and Diane's body is in the bed, and
Mhm.
then it resolves into Club Silencio again.
Yes.
So I want like there's something to be said about like maybe there's something to be said. Maybe I'm like grasping at straws here, but is this figure like meant to be like a psychopomp ferrying souls to the afterlife, or like are they divine retribution of some form, or like a sinister? What's going on there? I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I love it.
It hurts, but it feels so good.
Yeah,
No. Yeah, I mean the it's interesting because they discover Diane's body in Diane's bed during the dream sequence, and
yeah,
then we get the real, and which culminates in the death, and then all the other stuff that you just listed.
yeah,
And so one wonders then, was it a dream or was it the ferryman taking toll of a
yeah,
life before entering, etc., right? Of like, this is how I explain what happened. Look, oh gosh, I was just a victim of circumstance. It was truly awful. I tried to do
yeah,
everything I could to help. And then you get the truth,
yeah,
question mark, asterisk, asterisk. Which is a very different story after
yeah,
you get through the key box, whatever. But anyway,
yeah,
yeah, more questions abound,
yeah.
which is great.
And,
That's fun.
and what's up with the cowboy?
I don't, yeah, right?
It's the cowboy seems evil, like,
Yeah,
but affably
yeah,
so, and like they're pulling the strings in the dream,
mm-hmm,
but then they're there to wake up Diane from this escapist reality, and then we
yes,
see them one more time at the party at the end
mm-hmm,
in the background. They follow. I think they follow not Camilla out the door.
mm,
So I don't know what's going on there.
yeah,
That's just I'm okay with it being a riddle for the ages, and I love that.
yeah,
But
uh-huh.
like I want to know, but I also don't want to know. So
Yeah. In an age where you can, go on your search engine of choice and look up basically anything,
yeah,
um, it's fun to have a mystery sometimes that you don't have an answer to.
yeah,
I don't know. I think that's good.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, and you know, I think it's worth noting that if you Google Mulholland Drive and you get the people also ask
Mm-hmm.
examples, the top one is, can someone please explain Mulholland Drive? Which is, I think
No.
we've put a valiant effort forward here.
I mean, I think the answer is no, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Ah.
It's weird. It's weird and it's good and it's weird and it's okay. It's
Yeah.
weird.
So I think we should do a David Lynch marathon for the next 7 episodes or so.
I would say yes, but next we're doing, I think, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or something.
Oh, that
like
is a fun movie.
So
that is a good movie.
you know, I'm
Yeah.
ruining the streak already. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
But okay, so weird movie, fun movie? Question mark. Enjoyable experience, mostly? Question mark. But if you want to learn about something to do with film, why watch this fever dream? Go.
Yeah, if you want to have deep thoughts about a movie, yeah, watch this one. We've talked about how David Lynch famously hated explaining his work and very often refused to do so, and would leave it up to the audience. I think this is like a great way to like, maybe it is a bit like you're going in the deep end here, but at the same time, this is like a really fun movie to just like think about and ask questions about, and to look for like little clues and look for answers in. It's just weird and wonderful, and we need more weird and wonderful things in the world. But you know, Farrah, if you're looking to watch something just casually, just for funsies on Friday night, why should you watch surreal art house film noir Mulholland Drive?
Because it's weird, and also because if you ever play something like Alan Wake or Control, it's a fun like social contextual reference, and
Yeah.
you can be like, oh, like literally, I finished the movie, or I was like halfway through, I was like, I really want to go play Control right now, or like replay Alan Wake, you know. But no, watch it because it's weird. Watch
Yeah.
it because it's like extraordinarily well acted, and I don't say that to surprise. Like, I'm not surprised or anything, but like it was, yeah, because it was weird.
The wooden acting is deliberate,
Yeah,
because then you see them not doing that, and you're like, oh wow, okay.
the intentionality of it is really cool, and just I don't know, because it's weird. That's the reason you watch it. And it'll be fun. And then watch something nice afterwards, because you might want something that regrounds you in reality afterwards.
Yeah.
Which I did.
Yeah.
I needed to come back down to, like waking up from a dream.
Mm-hmm.
When you are discombobulated, you need something to bring you back to the present.
Yes, 100%.
So watch this and then watch something else on a Friday night in quick succession.
Yeah. Throw on an episode of The Simpsons or something afterwards. Just like
Yeah.
get a good laugh in after.
Exactly. So with all of that, if you enjoyed the podcast, like and subscribe. But also, you can find us at Patreon as Coffee and Kurosawa. You can also find us on Blue Sky as Coffee Kurosawa Pod. You can find me on Blue Sky, Substack, and Letterboxd as Farrah Sarpkaya, and at sarpkaya.ca, where I lend my voice as a voice actor. Ben, where can the people find you?
The good folks can find me on Blue Sky as at the Benjimon, and on Letterboxd as at Benjimon. And I think before we go, you know, it's important that we remind everyone that this is all a recording. There is no band. No high banda.
Silencio.
Silencio.